des coureurs plus intéressants pour la victoire finale. À la petite coup d'œil sur les équipes participantes, il y a 21 équipes de départ, 8 mois en cours, 2
Hello and welcome from a beautifully sunny Belgium. We have the Prix de Wallonie on our screens right now with a very impressive start field, I should say. Starting with number 1 is last year's winner, Mathieu van der Poel, of course our newly crowned world champion. William Prix was second last year. Gonzalo Serrano, Dylan Teuns and Corbin Strong were in the top 5 of this race. Previous winners include Christophe Laporte, Chris Nijland, Jasper Stuyven, Tim Wellens, Tony Galopin, and all the way back in 2014 it was Greg van Avermaet, who is of course this year in his 17th professional season, and it is going to be his last. So this is going to be his last Prix de Wallonie as well. We've got a pretty impressive field with lots of World Tour teams. Opposite the Koning, AG Desert, Cofidis, Intermarché, Movistar are here, Arkea Samsic, Jayco Alula and UAE Team Emirates, because we've got a big block of racing coming up here in Belgium with Kampioenschap van Vlaanderen on Friday and the Super 8, formerly Primus Classic, on Saturday, where we will have both Wout van Aert and Mathieu van der Poel on the start line. A whole range of pro teams here as well, and the slightly smaller continental teams, including the ones that stole our heart in the Tour of Britain, St. Piran. They did have a guy in the breakaway earlier today in Adam Lewis, and the race so far has been pretty dynamic because we had breakaways left, right and centre, but they never got more than a minute. Just now, about 15 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, the race settled, and we finally have a breakaway with a substantial gap on the peloton. But it's only 3 guys, and of course the laws of cycling do dictate that a breakaway should have a, well, slightly bigger size. These are the stats. We started in Évailles, which is of course the birthplace of Philippe Gilbert, and we finish on the Citadelle de Namur. 22 degrees. The heat wave here in the northwest of Europe is over. We had some big thunderstorms coming last night and the day before. And here is a little bit of an intro clip on the rather magnificent Citadelle de Namur. We'll take you to the course. We start in Évailles. First climb comes after 45 kilometers. It's the Côte de Verbimont. And then for quite some time we don't have any categorized climbs, but as you can see in the profile, there's a lot of elevation anyways. The second categorized climb is called the Côte d'Hermeton. That comes at 44 kilometers. Then we have Tienne-au-Pierre, which comes at 15k, which is a very narrow road straight off the river here. And then finally, of course, the Citadelle de Namur. And here we are with live images. Gives me the chance to introduce myself. My name is José Bain, and with me is, to my delight, Matt Stevens. Hi, Matt.
Thank you very much indeed, José. It's been good to link up with you again. This looks like it's going to be a cracking race. I was quite excited the other day when I took a look ahead, had a look through the start sheet. It really is a decent field that's been assembled here for this 63rd edition of this race. And of course, having Mathieu van der Poel, defending champion, in the rainbow bands as we look at the race earlier on today.
Yeah, this is the women's race, about 140 kilometres. Leading out here is the French champion, Victoire Berthaud. It was a rather close race altogether. They basically did the last 140 kilometres of what the men's course is going to be. And then we have a pretty impressive lead out there for Team Cofidis. We also have Marta Lach there in the colours of Ceratizit with the red helmet. Sylvia Persico is racing with the development team. Yara Kastelein there as well. And the French champion with a really early sprint. Kastelein on a huge gear going into that final corner where everything went a little bit pear-shaped for Justine Gekira, who is also in this group. It was a little bit of a breakthrough race for her. But the sprint is going to be a long drag up, and this is what we're going to see the men's race as well. An early sprint by the French champion Berthaud, Persico And in the end, it's Marta Lach pushing a wheel across the line in first place. And this is her second win in 3 days. She also won the Grand Prix de Fourmies-Choralis on Sunday. And remember, this girl was introduced in Het Nieuwsblad by the photo editor as cycling tourists are watching on the Koppenberg as Wout van Aert does his efforts. Well, this cycling tourist does a really good job because, of course, she was also second in Grand Prix de Plouay. On a roll is Marta Lach, the Polish rider there of Siracy WNT. Sadly, no live images of the women's race this year. Hopefully, we will be back with that next year. Here we are with the Palmares. I just gave you the names of that one. We have a few former winners on the start line. Most notably, of course, our world champion Christophe Laporte. Not here. We don't have Jumbo-Visma on the start line. Chris Nijlands, Jasper Stuyven, Tim Wellens, Galopin. Well, you can see the names on your screen. And Greg van Avermaet in 2014. His first Grand Prix de Wallonie apparently was back in 2007. Imagine what we were doing in 2007. Looks like a lifetime ago, Matt. Let me introduce the breakaway to you. Leading for the Alpecin de Koning team is Dries de Bont on very wet roads here in the Ardennes. If you are looking on the map of Belgium, we are, of course, in Namur, which is in the Ardennes. And if you look at Liège, it's about 60 kilometers southwest of Liège, I think. And we're making our way to that Citadelle de Namur. We're not going to do any of the local laps that we did in previous years. We just have one big tour to go. So, Dries de Bont in the breakaway, the 32-year-old from Alpecin de Koning. Pierre-André Côté, he is the Pan-American champion of human-powered health. And we have Kenny Molly of the Van Rijssel Roubaix Lille Métropole team. Matt, the race so far has been hectic.
It's been very fast, yeah. It's been an animated race. Just looking at the wind direction, it's changed from what it was earlier this morning. First off, we headed north, then we dropped south. We had a tailwind from the first part. Then, for the vast majority of the day, this mid part of the course, we've had a crosswind. But as we turn right, in about 15 kilometres time over the climb of the Côte d'Imerton, that's when we hit a headwind. So the wind has actually swung round, so it's grippy, but as you can see, there's not a lot of exposed terrain in this neck of the woods. It is beautiful, it's up and down. It's a part of the world that I used to love racing in, very, very different to West Flanders, for example. As you can see, green and verdant, some very steep climbs, and the Grand Prix de Wallonie. Although there's not nowhere near as hilly as Liège-Bastogne-Liège, for example, it is still a lumpy race, and that's why we've seen such an aggressive one. But that's a pretty decent lead. 2 minutes and 45 seconds. As you say, it's a little bit on the small side, this breakaway, but right now they are forcing one of the teams that I didn't expect to chase, and that's Total Energies, who are now riding behind. But de Bont, Côte and Molly have built up a decent lead, and they'll definitely go over the next categorised climb of the day with this lead. But I think with that headwind finale, that block headwind run in to the Citadelle de Namur, that might be a little bit difficult for them to stay away. But this is ideal, of course, for Alpecin de Koning. They don't have to do anything. All they need to do is just follow the moves and just see what happens, force the other teams to chase.
We never had a world champion winning the Grand Prix de Wallonie in his world champions jersey. A few of them actually came very close. Of course, Eddy Merckx, Joop Zoetemelk, two iconic names from the past. They were runners-up in their respective years, 75 and 85. And Cadel Evans was on the podium as well when he was in the world champions jersey. This looks like a little bit of a fixer-upper.
It certainly does, doesn't it?
Of course, in this mountainous area in the east of the country, we have a lot of these castles, rivers, outcrops, fantastic part of the world. Used to earn a lot of money actually in mining, and when the mines closed, just like we had in Wales and North England and all these parts of the world, the affluent nature of Wallonia kind of went away, and then Flanders became the richer part of the country, which causes a political opposites. Actually, we have a pretty right-wing government actually in Flanders and a left-wing government in Wallonie. And then, as you know, in Belgium they have to form one federal government. Good luck with that. Last year it took 500 days.
There we go. It's interesting, like you said, that the history of this area, there was a lot of battles fought here in the First and the Second World War as well. But there was a big Italian contingent, many of the miners, especially near the mines closer to Liège, where actually a lot of Italians came and settled in this area. So there's quite a big Italian community still in the area of Liège as well. So it's a very historied area. It is beautiful. It does remind me a little bit of some of the places I used to ride my bike when we were filming for the GCN videos in the Wye Valley in Wales. It does remind me of, because it's a very similar, it follows the path of a river with steep climbs either side. It does remind me of my early GCN days actually filming in the Wye Valley. But having raced around here extensively in various events, including the Tour of Wallonia, it's a place that I really do like. It does remind me of England, England and Wales. It's very similar. Doesn't share. It's considering the fact that we're in the same country. It is poles apart than where the Tour of Flanders goes. It has its own true identity, not just from a topographical point of view, but also, as you say, from a political point of view, a cultural point of view as well.
Yeah, well, most of the Flemish riders, Flemish people, speak French. Quite often it's not the other way around. The King of Belgium actually had some very intensive language training when he became king 10 years ago, and still it's not fluent because the Belgian royal family grows up usually with the French language. So yeah, it's a fascinating country, Belgium, and this part is really beautiful. We can see the rain of yesterday, just like in the UK. We had a pretty massive heat wave, very late September heat wave in the Netherlands and Belgium, and that ended with some very severe thunderstorms here in the northeast of Belgium, with some flooding as well. And of course, as you might know, the region here has some really bad memories of flooding a couple of years ago. Sadly, a lot of casualties both here and just across the border in Germany in the Aare Valley. So luckily no more flash flooding here, but the roads, especially this time of the year, Matt, they just don't dry anymore, don't they?
Exactly. No, it's as you say, you've got the slightly shorter days now as well, and the temperature's just that little bit lower, and because the sun doesn't get as high once it does rain, as you say, the roads quite often, unless the temperature really does increase again, they do stay a little bit wet, especially underneath these beautiful canopies. We can just see the leaves on the turn. It's a lovely time of year, but as you say, quite technically challenging when some parts of the road are dry and some parts of the wet. It's often, many of you home might think that we're broken records when we talk about road surfaces, but I tell you what, it is quite stressful. And also because of the heaviness of the rain, as you can see, there's a lot of mud on the road, still a lot of debris, so all that mud would have been brought up the fields as the water ran off the fields onto the roads, so making it a little bit sketchy, especially on the descents, and also a bit easier to pick up punctures as well, as you want to avoid all that sediment and all the chippings that come off the road. And some of the stuff that does wash off the field, depending on the rock formations, if you get flints on the road washed off from the fields, it can be punctures galore, even with the tyre technology we get these days. But thankfully, it doesn't look like that's the case at the moment, but that is the very familiar figure of Matti Bodnar on the front. Looking at who they might be riding for, would it be Tergis or Simon, or maybe they've put their faith in Edvald Boasson Hagen, who's going to be looking for a contract at the end of this year?
Yeah, Julien Simon was their best finisher last year with a 15th place. Just 5 seconds down on Mathieu van der Poel. Another name who really stood out last year was Irishman Darren Rafferty. He's racing again today with Hagen's Berman Action. Of course, he signed a contract with EF Education, Easy Post. Very exciting rider to look out for, and this is the kind of course that really suits him very well, judging from that 13th place last year, and last year he was only just 19. So Ireland have got a fantastic new young rider to look forward to, Archie Ryan being another one. Great new generation of Irish riders, but Darren Rafferty, don't forget that name. You'll hear his name quite often in the foreseeable future. Complete dry roads again here, and although we only have 4 categorized climbs, I count at least 25.
Yeah, there's loads. It's around here. I mean, there's hardly, just looking at the profile that I have, there's hardly a flat bit of road. It's either climbing ever so slightly or descending, a little bit of flat perhaps that we saw in that little valley, but essentially it's up and down. Pretty taxing terrain as we head towards Namur. But despite that, Pierre-André Cote, the Canadian, and this man here, Mr. Breakaway, such a talented rider, such an aggressive, enjoyable. It's such an enjoyable rider to listen to as well. Exceptionally tactically astute. They're doing a good job forcing Cofidis and Total Energies to ride. Interesting that none of the other World Tour teams at the moment in this race are assisting with the chase. Clearly they're happy to let the 2 French squads do all the riding right now, which is quite interesting because, as you said at the top of the programme, Jose, it is an exceptionally good field. 8 World Tour teams are here, 9 pro teams and 4 Conti teams, so it is a strong field. But a few of the other bigger World Tour teams right now leaving it to the 2 French squads to do the pacemaking, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, we're racing through the town of Falaine, which is, according to the tourists department of Wallonia, one of the prettiest villages of Wallonia, with 2 capitals, prettiest villages. We're quite close to Maretsu, which is of course also a very famous beer and cheese. And I just saw the rather lovely monumental farm that we passed, and that is a protected monument as well. Good signing there. Not on the other side though, but this man was aggressively signing. There was an obstacle. You couldn't have missed him.
It's important though. I think the more aggressively signed, the better, if you ask me. That was a pretty complex but typical now, pretty atypical yet complex piece of road furniture. As we just past these fields on the left-hand side, they look like they're ripe to be harvested. One would imagine very, very shortly. We are in the harvest time, of course, but on one of these concrete strips of road, as we move back onto some asphalt. That's one of the things that you definitely get in Belgium, is those big, horrible, whether it's Wallonia, whether it's West Flanders, East Flanders, in Belgium, more than anywhere, I think, aside from some steep climbs in Spain, you get these big concrete slabs with these little gaps in between, which can be awful to ride on. But 51.9 k's to go. Yes, they're doing all right. The Oceania jersey is a lovely one, isn't it?
It is a good design.
Yeah, it is.
Of course, we always tend to be very Europe-centred, and everybody knows that the European champion is Jacobsen. The European Championships will be next week in my home part of the Netherlands in Drenthe. But yeah, the Pan Am Championships is actually the same jersey. It's the same category, just like the Asian jersey that's held by one of the riders of Astana. It holds the same merit, same amount of points, but yeah, of course, we always tend to be a little bit Europe-centred. We see Movistar there with Johan Jacobs. He is officially Swiss, but he lives in Belgium, fluent in Dutch as well. They have Puerto Rican Abner Gonzalez, Luis Mas, Matthias Norsgaard, he was in one of the early breakaways, Vincentius Rangel Costa, Yuri Holman, and Gonzalez Serrano, who of course was 3rd last year. We actually have the entire podium of last year's race back in the Grand Prix de Wallonie, with Mathieu van der Poel, Biniam Gremaille and Gonzalo Serrano. And last year that was off the back of winning the Tour of Britain, I think. That was of course cut short due to the death of the Queen, but he did win it.
Yeah, he did win it, and he won a stage as well. Put away Tom Pidcock in a sprint to move into leader's jersey. But unfortunately, as we all know, that race was curtailed. He was riding well in the Tour of Britain last week, not quite the same form. Got distance a little bit on the final stage, but he's up there. And looking at the lineup that they have here, as we're talking about Movistar, I would say that it'd be about Serrano today, because he was there or thereabouts at the pointy end of the stages. So, and with his record in this race, and the fact he can climb well and can sprint well from a small group uphill, I would say that Serrano, looking at their lineup, would be their leader for today's race. It's quite interesting. Normally, when we get a start sheet, more often than not, and some teams have it, the rider with a 1 so like 21, 31, 41, generally is the team leader. But in this, it doesn't seem that's the case. I've picked most of the team leaders that I would pick out are other numbers apart from one, say for Mathieu van der Poel and Brian Cockard for Cofidis. So I reckon it's an interesting one they've done here.
It's completely quite random. They have one of the stagiaires, for example, at the Intermarché Circus Wanty team, or actually he is part of the development team, Dylan van der Stormen, as their number one instead of Binyam Girmay. But yeah, it's only a number. Having number one, of course, means a lot. If you can start a race with number one, that's always nice. We also have St. Piran here, with Jack Rutkin-Gray, Alex Richardson, Sepp Kiven, Tyler Hanna, Adam Lewis, Bradley Simmons and James McKay. Both Bradley Simmons and Adam Lewis have been very active in breakaways. In the end, they were not represented at the front, but last week, of course, in the Tour of Britain, they were a fan favourite, were they?
They were indeed. I was waxing lyrical about them all week because they just got stuck in, and they've had some very good results. So it's not as if they're just a team that get stuck in a gung ho just to show their faces. They get stuck in, and they're getting results as well. That they rode in a really disruptive way. They rode in an adventurous way, but they rode smart, and in the end, and they were strong too. Richardson, Rutkin-Gray, Kiffin, all got insignificant moves, and Zeb Kiffin actually ended up 6th overall. As you know, but it was that they rode magnificently, and they've had a great season. Rutkin-Gray, of course, just off the podium in the under-23 World Championships, to name but a few, dominated the British scene as well. But every time they venture onto the continent, they perform, and they're not afraid to get stuck in. But they're just at the back at the moment. But I think this sort of parkour will suit the likes of Rutkin-Gray and Zeb Kiffin, because I think it's going to be quite selective, generally speaking, over the last few years. And I have had the pleasure of commentating on this either with yourself or others over the last 5 or 6 years, and we generally do get a pretty reduced peloton by the time we get into the finale, and then of course it thins out on that final twisting hairpinny finish to the summit at the top of the Citadel. So but I think they've got riders that could possibly finish in the top 10 today, that's for sure.
Cofidis are here with Brian Cockard, who could do really well on a course like this, also judging from previous results. Christophe Noppe, Alexandre Delettre, Jelle Valais, Axel Zingle, Ilian Larmet, one of their stagiaires, and Alexis Renard. They had a little bit of a scare earlier this week when one of their riders was also brought to hospital with a heart attack. Dutchman Wesley Kreder had a heart attack in bed at home, went to hospital, and luckily he's okay, but they send out a press statement. And of course, 2 days ago we had the same news with Nathan van Hooijdonk, and we do wish them well. We do wish them both well, both Wesley Kreder and Nathan van Hooijdonk. Really scary situation for both of them. Yeah,
definitely. That's an awful situation. But as you say, we pass on our regards. Not that we need a timely reminder in this particular year. It's been a difficult year, hasn't it, for cycling across the board in terms of what has happened. But just another reminder, isn't it, of how fragile things can be. And ultimately a reminder that cycling, as magnificent as it is, and we all love it, it is just a sport after all.
Matthias Bodnar, he's been places. His career incredibly long, of course, part of the entourage of Peter Sagan, who will say goodbye to the sport, to the road sport, I should say. Of course, he wants to continue mountain biking and be part of the Paris Olympics. In the Tour de Vendée, which is on the 1st of October. But Bodnar has been by his side for many, many years, dating all the way back to Liquigas, I think. They have seen the world together, the Polish rider and Peter Sagan.
Oh, they certainly have, and Bodnar, he's been an exceptional time trialist. Of course, won a stage in the Tour de France, didn't he? I think it was one
in that stadium.
2018 in Marseille, was it? I think it was Marseille. I was
inside the
actually,
stadium.
Yeah, I was commentating on site for that, and that's the first time, the only time I've actually commentated with no top on, because it was so hot inside the stadium. So I just had a pair of shorts on, and I hope you've got some mind bleach. But yes, it was so hot. But no, he took that stage there. But no, he's been, as you say, he's been with spent most. I think the largest part of his career was with Tinkoff. when he was with the Peter Sagan there, and was part of the team. There we go. Our first glimpse. We can't not mention this, can we? Thank goodness, from my humble opinion, that man is in black shorts. Let's just get that out of the way before we get towards the point end of the race. Mathieu van der Poel, resplendent in the rainbow bands in black shorts. That gets a thumbs up from me.
Yeah, well, the clothing manufacturer Callas made 2 sets. You can have both the white and the black ones. The replica kits will be out soon, and they'll come with black bibs. So if you want to buy a replica kit, you can do so, and it doesn't come with white bibs because, we just can't. You just can't do that. But yeah, Mathieu van der Poel, he's got a few races coming up in this part of the world, and then is going for the Gravel Worlds. I think I don't know if it's been officially announced just yet.
I didn't know that. I know he's got.
No, he's not. Wout van Aert is going for the Gravel Worlds, and he is going for the Olympic test event. Mountain biking, that was it.
Okay, there we go. I think the Olympic mountain bike test event might actually be crucial for qualification, because obviously he crashed out of the Worlds. I think that's why he might be doing it. Yeah,
there's another Dutch young man in the under-23 category at the Worlds in Glasgow who actually secured 1 spot for the Netherlands at the Paris Olympics, and that is because some nations, of course, have an abundance of riders in that top 20. France, for example, and there's other countries as well. So the under-23 rider got a top 10 at the Worlds in Glasgow, and that secured the spot for Mathieu van der Poel. So, he of course he wants to go there, see the course, but his program is going to be the Super 8 Classic on Saturday with Wout van Aert, Circuit Franco-Belge on the 28th of September. Then is the Olympic mountain bike test event, and on the 8th of October, his road season ends in the rather wonderful Paris Tour.
Yep, and knowing Van der Poel, he's not good. He did quite a few events after the World, and had a bit of a rest after the World, a bit of a reset. And there was a point following the World Championships, it wasn't even sure if he was going to race again this year. But he is. But I think it's only 4 or 5 road events based on what you've just said. But knowing Van der Poel, he's not going to want to fit. He's not come here to just to get some training in. He's come here to win this bike race. And he's going to want to get. And when you think about, although it appears over the last few years that the curse of the rainbow jersey has thankfully become a thing of the past, most of the recent World Championships have excelled and have won races in the rainbow bands. But I think for Van der Poel, although I know.
We'll have yet to see that.
Yeah, I think he's going to want to get that win early on in the rainbow bands, just to set. It's just an important thing for either a national champion or a world champion to win in that jersey. And the longer it goes on without winning, I remember Philippe Gilbert actually. Was it 2012? Was it 2011 he won? And it took him till the Vuelta. Yeah, it took him till the Vuelta, the following season, to win a race, and it was getting pretty nervy. So, but I'm sure that won't happen to Mathieu van der Poel. But I think to get that first win under the belt, ASAP as world champion is important. So watch out for him today. He's not here with number 1 on his back in the rainbow bands to make up the numbers, and that's one of the reasons they put De Bont up the road, is so the team can sit back, force the other teams to chase before they go on the offensive in the later stages.
I think Luc Leblanc, who for one reason or the other I was a huge fan of, I have no idea why, never won in the rainbow jersey. It was a bit of a disaster back in 1995.
Well, I think he went to Le Groupement. I think he won it when he was running for Pulte, I think.
Yeah. Pulte's coming back, by the way.
Yeah, yes, they are indeed. But then I think he went, he went to a team called Le Groupement, which were ill-fated and collapsed. And so I don't think he actually had a team for a while. I think he ended up riding for Festina latterly. But no, he never won.
You are indeed right. Well, of course, you have a little bit more experience of that era. But I wonder, why was I a fan of Luc Leblanc? Because if there was there ever a less charismatic rider than Luc Leblanc?
I think he basically was one of those riders that embodied the spirit of another era. He looked like he should have been riding in the 1950s, but he did it in the 1990s. And I think that's why he was very popular. It was when he won in Spain in '94. It was because he's won stage of the Tour de France. So don't get us wrong, but it was let's say a surprise win. but he was the kind of rider that embodied the spirit of Belleville Rendezvous, films like that, because he physically looked like a rider of the past. I think that's why. Anyway, back to the present.
Back to the present with our man from Canada, Pierre-André Côté. His future is not looking all that great. Of course, the team is in dire straits. I don't know if they are still looking for new sponsors. I think they announced to their riders and staff about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, that it was not looking very good for them, and they've been racing very aggressively ever since in all the races that they got to do. Of course, you have to. This man was also very active in the Maryland Cycling Classic. That was 1.5 weeks ago. And at Jersey, I remember doing commentary on that race, and it took me about half the race to figure out what kind of jersey this was. But it's the Pan American Championships, which were in Panama. It doesn't have anything to do with Pan American, but they were in Panama. And it was... It doesn't get any flatter than that. It was a completely flat course around Panama City, and he won that jersey there, beating Tevino, the Argentinian sprinter, the Tovani, that we know from other races. Do we have a mechanical problem there for Dries de Bont, or just some refreshments?
I think it's just they're on the climb now. This is where the course actually takes a significant change of direction. Because as we look at the Monastère des Hermetons, we're on the Hermeton climb at the moment, but it's not, you can hardly even notice it. It's just under 2 k's long, but only 3.4% average. So looking at the footage, it just looks like they're riding on a relatively flat bit of road. But over the top of the climb, they will turn right at a 90-degree angle, swing onto a road to head north towards Namur. And that's when they'll get the headwind right in the face. It's blowing at around 12 kilometers an hour right now. It has swung round from being blowing from west to east now to north to south. So the next phase of riding for the breaker is going to be pretty hard with that wind right on the nose, and of course will favour the bunch behind over the top of this climb.
Christoph Roodhoofd behind the wheel of the team car. They actually have got their 2 world champions on the team. Of course, I think they won 3 world titles in Glasgow with Sam Gaze, of course, in the mountain biking. Axel Laurens in the under-23 racing. He's racing here. Mathieu van der Poel in the elite race. Axel Laurens can't wear that world champions jersey because this is not an under-23 race.
They've had a cracking season, haven't they? That they really have. It's they've got such a good. When you look further than Mathieu van der Poel, and again, forgive us for saying this, because Mathieu van der Poel is such a dominant rider, is an icon. He borderline kind of transcends cycling, but the rest of the team, they've got some very, very good bike riders. And again, interestingly, de Bont still hasn't signed a contract for 2024, as he just gets rid of, jettisons some litter at the side of the road. Not too sure if this is a green zone or not, but as you can see, pretty exposed over the top here. Now, if this could be interesting for the bunch, because on this particular section before they swing right, this is crosswind.
Let's see if there is going to be some action. Of course, we still have, well, bar one, all the World Tour teams left in the peloton, and this might be an interesting place because, giving the likes of Dries de Bont 2 minutes is maybe something that you should think twice about. This is the Abbey of Maretsu, home to beer and cheese. I prefer the cheese over the beer, but they actually wash the cheese in the beer, so you get a little bit of both. It's an absolute splendid.
Sounds nice. That sounds amazing.
Yep, it's a splendid place to be. They also have you can walk the grounds here, but of course there's still monks living there to make the beer, because you have to be on site actually. But it's a wonderful place, and they've got so many of these abbeys around the Ardennes. Out of the 10 Trappist beers, or 9 Trappist beers that we have left in the world, officially acknowledged ones, I think 3 are in the Ardennes, Maretsu not being one of them, I think. Back to the peloton, where there is no Trappist happening, because can you imagine what happens if you have a Trappist beer with 40.7 kilometres still to go?
Do you know what? I know this might sound controversial, but can you imagine if we had one bike race, Jose, where riders could only drink Trappist beer in their bidons?
Yeah,
how far do you think they?
It would be a health hazard.
I don't think they get 200 k's, would they? I'm not advocating that. Anybody at home? I'm not advocating it. I'm just saying, wouldn't it be funny as long as there are mattresses left, right, and centre for riders to ultimately fall over on? But I think it would be quite an interesting race. Or maybe we should just do that on Zwift so it's safer. But anyway, here we go. Front of the race, they're just heading to this point where there's going to be a change of direction, and they're really trying to force it. I think De Bont here, the way he's riding at the front here, we know how well that he can pace a race. So as well as being a strong, aggressive rider who can last the distance, he'll know the parts on the course, Jose, when to really force it. So up to this crosswind, they're going to turn right at this roundabout, then they're straight into a bit of a headwind, but on this crosswind section he's really forcing to pace to try and build as big an advantage as they can.
Yeah, and this all plays in the cards, of course, of Mathieu van der Poel. It means that the team doesn't have to do anything at all about the chase, and they're still leaving it to the two French teams, Total Energy and Cofidis. Arkea are coming to the front as well. It's like a French alliance right now, but they have a team here with Belgian rider Jente Biermans, Maxime Bouet, Ewan Kostu, one of the promising young riders, Arnaud Desmar. Still getting a little bit used to Arnaud Desmar in that red jersey. Luca Mozzato, Alessandro Ferre and Alain Rioux. That is the team of Arkea Samsic. We also have Vigard Staken-Lengen, of course, the trusty domestique on the UAE Tour. He's part of the Tour de France team as well, and just signed a new contract as a reward for his endless service to the team captains of UAE.
Yeah, he's a cracking rider. He is. He really is. They've got a really. When you look at the UEA team, it's a really strong team. You know, Ryan Gibbons there, the South African, has had another strong season. Although he'll be leaving the squad to head to Lidl Trek next year, as they really do bolster. I think Lidl Trek. I thought, pardon.
Who's not going to Lidl Trek?
Exactly. I think half the peloton are off to Lidl Trek there. But no, they've got Mikel Bier as well. And also Alvaro Hodge, who's had a really difficult time with injuries, etc. But he's here. But I think this finish might be a little bit too difficult for him. But they've also got Matteo Trentin as well. Mm-hmm. So they have got an exceptionally strong team as they just start to force things. There's Trentin, just with the little blue flashes on his sleeve, denoting that he's a previous European road race champion. But UAE have a very, very strong team here, as the AG Touar as well. That's a Nance Peters just moving through to the front as well. Yep,
former Tour de France stage winner, of course, Nance Peters. We also have Q36.5 in this peloton. Chilipra Cycling are here as well. It's a very, very well... high quality start list. UNOX, they have Alexander Kristoff here, Søren Werenskjold, to name but a few. Werenskjold could win this bike race as well. He's got the talent to do so. Fantastic sprinter, time trialist, and really, really good in the Tour de Wallonie earlier this year.
I think...
that was Belgium, sorry.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say, as we're hitting this headwind now, there's still a few... There's obviously a little bit of wind coming from the side because it's not fully bunched up, but I think it's fair to say this might be the best field we've ever had for the GP Wallonie in terms of depth. You just talked about Uno X with Kristoff and Welertsgold. We've got Dylan Tjerns, Stevie Williams, Jakob Fuglsang for Israel Premier Tech. And we've not even mentioned Michael Matthews for Jaco Alula, who's just come off the back of a couple of strong rides in Canada. Brian Coquard from Cofidis. Gumai, we talked about earlier on. Campenarts and De Boist, both of who have been going very well, almost attached at the hip, those two. I love their social media profile, but both have been riding strongly. So it really is a very good field. But I think given the way things are going, you've only got 37 Ks to go, things are going to get pretty tasty, I think, towards the back end of this race, because I think there's several teams there that have... Well, there've been several teams that are going to be worried about some of the pure sprinters. So we've got a mix of pure sprinters and puncheurs who this sort of finish is going to suit. So I think the teams with puncheurs rather than pure sprinters are going to want to try and make it as difficult on this very hilly run into the line. So we lose elevation now for the best part of around 10 kilometres, although it's rolling. And then it's this final little phase of racing, the last 15 Ks, where I think this peloton will start to thin out just a little bit more.
Yeah, we are going towards one of these river valleys, one of the rivers that cuts through the Ardennes. The main one, of course, being the Meuse, or Maas in Dutch, and that is also where Namur is. We basically followed the river and then go off the main road and onto one of these small punchy climbs. Victor Kampenaerts at the front for Lotto Destiny. Strong team here as well, with Jasper de Buys, Cedric Beulens, Frederik Frison, Brent Van Boer, Alex Segaert and Harm van Hoeken. So yeah, it's a pretty impressive field this year. Anthony Turgis, one of the riders of Total Energie, the entire team is moving to the front as we speak. They're really taking this race with currently Majes Bodnar still doing the work, followed by Daniel Ost, two of the henchmen of Sagan, of course. And they're the entire Total Energie team with 147. The last in line is Turgis.
Yep, 148 certainly coming down. As soon as we hit that headwind, it was pretty obvious, I think, that this gap would come down so much harder when you're in a little group, especially of 3 riders. It's a little bit better if you've got 5, 6, 7 riders, but with only 3, yeah, although it's far easier on the wheel in a block headwind, there's always going to be advantage peloton, given the fact that we've got such a good field here as well. There are a lot of good riders all wanting to take the scalp of Mathieu van der Poel and replace themselves as winner of this race. So and a lot of the riders that we talked about are on pretty decent form. The only rider whose form is, I wouldn't say questionable, but he's not quite had the second half of the season that he would hope. I think it's Gramaille. Not quite. Yeah. I mean, never ruled him out, of course, but he's had a pretty sketchy season so far, isn't he, by his own lofty standards. But again, still a rider that you'd never want to rule out. And he's got a good team around him, so you never know. I think it would be important for him to get a good result this deep into the season, because he hasn't had the season that I think he would have hoped so far this year.
No, there was that really horrible crash, of course, in Tour of Flanders back in April that took him out for quite some time, and then he crashed again in the Tour de France. So, yeah, not really the year there for Biniam Gramaille. It is, of course, the year of Mathieu van der Poel. He loves Namur. Last year was only the first year that he took part in the Grand Prix de Wallonie, but he won 5 World Cups here, as in cyclocross World Cups. So he knows this climb. Of course, in the Cyclocross World Cup in Namur, we are not going to do the climb. It's on top of the citadel, basically. Now we're going all the way down from the river and up the climb, which officially is 3 kilometers long, 3.9. It's a lovely climb. It's got a little bit of cobble action going on as well. Some hairpins, and off to that... yeah, that beautiful citadel that was built as a fortress along the Meuse River. It's a
interesting climb, isn't it? It's not super steep. It's 3 Ks at just under 4%. There are little steep pitches in it, and although it's uphill, it's one of those climbs that you actually do need to be in a very good position, because it generally thins out. And I think because we've got, although it's drying up now, the cobbles could still be a little bit slippery heading over the top. It flattens at the top, and technically it is quite an interesting climb, so we will see a big fight. That the peloton will definitely be thinned out a little bit more before we hit the bottom, because on the approach to that climb, although we have another climb just beforehand, we've got, well, the final phase of racing with 15 Ks to go. We hit the top of the Tien au Pierre, which is 3 Ks at 5.3%. Drop off that. There's another climb of 1,200 metres at 4% before the plummet down back into the valley and back up to the citadel. So it's a really intense last few kilometres. There will be riders that lose the wheel, and there will be teams sacrificing riders to keep that pace as high as possible, just to make it a little bit harder for some of the riders who would want an easier, not exactly an armchair, but an easier run into the line. But the likes of Michael Matthews, as you can just see, Team Jayco Alula, will be built all around him. They've got Calendar O'Brien, Durbridge, Luca Mesgiet, Campbell Stewart, Blake Quick and Adam Jorgensen. But it's all about Michael Matthews on this sort of finish, and he would dearly love to get a result. Rode well, didn't he, in Canada? Got finished on the podium. I think it was in Quebec. Was on the offensive in Montreal, but that was a good... I don't know if you saw that race. That was That looked absolutely brutal. It was all over the place, and of course is going to be the location for the World Championships in 2026.
Yep. We have Zurich next year, Rwanda in 2025. If it's going to happen, there's a lot going on at the Rwandan Cycling Federation. My colleague at the Escape Collective, Ian Trelaw, wrote a really good piece about it, and one of the other organizations you can follow on the matter is Africa Rising, doing a lot of research about that. Hopefully it will happen. Rwanda is a beautiful country, but there's a lot happening at the moment in terms of the federation. There's a tube coming off.
Well, there you go. He's running, I don't know if he's running tubeless, but his tyre's blown off. That's one of the riders from Van Rijssel, Roubaix, Lille Métropole. He basically nearly went into the back of that car, deviated very suddenly, and I think it was such an acute angle that he hit the curb at. I think he's clearly just taken his tyre off. Luckily, he didn't bring anybody else down, and he did very well, to be honest with you, to hold things up. Here we go, as we just drop off this plateau that we've been riding on. And again, Jose, you can just see on that little bend there was a big patch of wet road here, and this is going to make it quite a nervy last 31.5 kilometres, especially the final 15 or 20 Ks when it gets particularly lumpy. But this next sector, there is a steep climb coming up to quite soon actually, which we'll be heading into in the next 5 or 6 K. But this next sector leading into the final phase of hills, pretty fast, narrow and twisty.
1:35 is the gap as we speak for our three leaders, Dries de Bont, Pierre-André Côté, Kenny Molly. Kenny Molly, part of the northern French team of Van Rijssel, Roubaix, Lille Métropole. Rumoured that Van Rijssel is going to join the Age Desert team in terms of a bike sponsor next year. Of course, the brand of the Decathlon chain. But he's been part of many teams in the past, but feels at home at the Roubaix Lille Métropole team. We have Pierre-André Côté, former Canadian champion there for human-powered health, and of course Dries de Bont, who has the most wins behind his name, including the National Championship of Belgium, with a rather formidable solo, I remember, a couple of years ago, where he really held off the peloton they were at 12, 13, 14 seconds, and he did that for 15k. So a really strong win there by Dries de Bont. But with 30k to go, Matt, and the peloton springing into action, we see new teams at the front right now. I think the breakaway doesn't really stand a chance.
Well, we know what Michael Matthews likes. He's got such a punch. He can go long range himself. I mean, who can forget that absolutely magnificent career best win, I think, in the Tour de France last year. But again, doesn't do that very often. But what he can deliver is a fearsome punch at the end of a very grippy race, and this is why Team Jayco Alula are making it hard on this little series of climbs, and the gap, as a result, unsurprisingly, is starting to tumble. Also on the left-hand side, they're right, due to pro cycling as well, and then Movistar moving up in the centre too on these narrow roads. But yeah, clearly it is the squad of Jayco Alula who are trying to do something a little bit different. They're actually firing somebody up the road here. This is unexpected. This is Luke Durbridge, Turbo Durbo, really trying to force the pace. Campenaerts with him.
Yep, Campenaerts following one of the riders, ex-Tudor. We have Movistar. Yeah, with this view, we can't really see who they are. We need to zoom in just a little bit more.
Difficult to see, definitely. The one rider that we can always recognise, probably one of the easiest at that low crouch position, a Turbo, and also Victor as well. Victor Campenaerts sat in the wheel. It's been brought back together though. The man that's bringing it back for Total Energies looks like it's Tergy actually, who's bringing it back together, sewing that little split. But that big acceleration, that sharp and slightly unexpected acceleration by Luke Durbridge, has slashed the best part of 30 seconds off in a very short order. But then it eases off, so an interesting little move. It's just a bit of a testing one there, as Movistar now move through to the front to pick up the pace again.
Johan Jacobs, Durbo, Turgis. We have Nans Peters there as well. Campenaerts, fantastic rider, of course, Victor Campenaerts. His daily diaries during the Tour de France were...
They're great, aren't they?
They were really great. His last victory was almost a month ago, the Druivenkoers in Overijse. So a little bit of a break from racing for Victor Kampenaerts before going on, all of these late season races that we have here in Belgium. Super 8 Classic on Saturday is going to be a pretty exciting one, with also a field that is absolutely fantastic. And the last time in a road race this season that Van Aert and Van der Poel will meet. Got Ryan Gibbons there, the UAE rider. And then the gap drops below the minute mark there, Matt.
Yeah, did you see that? He was almost looking across. He could probably sense that Victor Kampenaerts was going to do something, and straight on his wheel is Ryan Gibbons. Again, he's got a ferocious kick himself. He's a very, very good sprinter, more of a lead-out rider. But increasingly, over the last couple of years, Ryan Gibbons has been climbing better and better. He's really come into his own over the last couple of seasons, and that's one of the reasons that Trek have, Lidl Trek, should I say, have asked him to come across. Former South African road champion, yeah.
There's a lot of discussion about that, isn't it? In the Netherlands, a lot of people say Lidl, and other people say the Lidl.
Oh.
But Lidl Trek makes it so harsh on the likes of Gaia Realini and Kenny Elizonde. So we should really say Lidl Trek. Lidl Trek.
Oh. Well, there's rumours. I mean, I'm sure whoever is there. I mean, you know, it's. I think they're a great team. They've clearly got big ambitions. They've got a big injection of cash. Hence the signing of some big superstars of the sport. Riders with still a lot of potential. But I don't know where the origins of this Lidl, because we're in the origins of wanting to say Lidl are, but because in the UK we just say Lidl. But there we go. But whatever, I think they've really made their mark as a sponsor. I think after initially not liking the kit so much, I really do like it. But anyway, it does grow on you. But I guess we best talk about the race. They're not here, but they're a team that are doing a lot. But the man on the front will be in their kit next year. And this is an interesting little split, 43 seconds. Movistar there. It looks like there was a little check there. That's a technical little right-hander there, Jose. And it looks like Gibbons was just caught unawares there. The road really went back on itself.
Yeah, we do know that one of these potholes here in Wallonie cost half of the season to Tadej Pogacar. Spicy is that they did fix the pothole 2 days after Liège-Bastogne-Liège. Yeah, oh well. Looks like we've got Brent van Moer there as well for the Lotto Destiny team.
Yeah, it does look like Van Moer.
Nice little group here. Gap is now plummeting to the 40-second mark. Yeah, like you said, we have a spicy finale with a climb called the Tien aux Pierres, which is 3 kilometers at 5.2. We basically come off the river and then straight up a very narrow road, which is steep and keeps on rising. Then we've got one climb that's not categorized, but it's still 1.2 kilometers at 4%. Then we drop back to the river, and then we do that final climb on the Citadelle de Namur. And I do think it's valid what you said, Matt, that these little cobbles that we have in the climb will prevent you from kind of sprinting out of the saddle, unless of course you're Mathieu van der Poel, you can do that.
Exactly. There's a lot of technique at play. I mean, you want to try and lay as much power down as you can as possible, so distributing your body weight over the bike, so you get as much traction as possible. That they are because it's only a shallow gradient. We know that sometimes these riders can go up 4 or 5% gradients with so much pace into a hairpin they need to feather the brakes uphill. That's how strong these riders are. But so they've got to watch that. But obviously what you can't do is suddenly aggressively flick the bike to the left or the right on wet cobbles. So you've really got to measure the way, measure the corners, measure your power distribution, and it is going to be quite easy to get it wrong. So we shall see. But this is Sorano indeed, who was on the podium in this race last year, the winner of last year's Tour of Britain, as you were saying, Kampenaerts, Van Moer, Carl Frederick Hagen as well. This is a decent little move. So one of the teams that is chasing that normally would have got somebody in here, the Uno X Pro cycling team, but it looks like there's actually somebody else about to sew things back together here. And the net results of all that activity is the gap is just under 40 seconds now.
Yeah, well, it looks like this break is also ending. We haven't seen one image just yet of Mathieu van der Poel being involved in any of the moves.
No, he's playing it canny, isn't he?
he's hiding somewhere. Although, of course, in a World Champions jersey, it's pretty difficult to hide. But he's just not involved with any of the skirmishes that we have right now. Of course, he's still got a teammate up the road, which could be one of the reasons. But this might as well be a moment, Matt, that a decisive break goes from the peloton, and the winner comes from that move.
Exactly. I think the reason why Van der Poel, he can just rest, and we know that he can deliver at any point of the race. One of the most devastating accelerations that a lot of riders just cannot respond to, but he doesn't need to do that right now. What he's not going to want to do is drag a dangerous group across to the man out in front. This is the reason I think that they've got Dries de Bont up in the move early on, is so Mathieu van der Poel can save all of his resources for that final climb, and maybe go very long. We've seen it before. He knows how to pace this climb. It suits him down to the ground. But right now he's just resting, and but 42 seconds. They're still working hard here. De Bont, Cote, and Kenny Molly. It looks like the strongest man in this move, unsurprisingly, is the far more decorated rider, and the rider with the most experience and results, Dries de Bont. But yeah, they've got to be careful that no little breakaway does go clear. And this is Edvald Boasson Hagen off the front now. So Boasson Hagen, again another rider looking for a contract for the 2024 season for Total Energies at the moment. Trying to move himself clear. Car just on the apex of that corner. And Movistar looking around for a little bit of support. Earlier on, we did see Total Energies doing a lot of work on the front, maybe to set this man up, but they're looking good at the moment.
Yeah, a family where two of the three brothers actually had to quit bike racing, the Turgis family. But Anthony Turgis, I think it was last year, but it might also be 2021. Time moves really fast. He had one heck of a classic season.
He did.
Always in the top 10 or close to the top 10. Never really that big win, but he showed that he was one of the best riders in that classics peloton. This year a little bit more under the radar, Anthony Turgis, but he's going for a good result here, and Edvald Boasson Hagen might just be the solution to that, just making sure that Total Energie are not working at all, because quite frankly, Matt, this seems like a really long attack.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's just dangling off the front here, and one of the reasons as well, I think, that we haven't seen Mathieu van der Poel is because the way this race has been ridden over the last couple of years, we've always had a break go clear early, but generally speaking, it's been won from the front, if you know what I mean, from a smaller group, because everybody's waiting for this final phase of racing, this last series of climbs, which are coming up very shortly. In fact, we hit the bottom of the final categorised climb of the day, the one you just talked about, the Tien Pierre, that comes in about 6 or 7 Ks, and it almost feels now as if we're riding Flèche Wallonne, you know, that real fast run in parallel with the river before the road kicks up. Certainly not the fearsome slopes of the Mur du Ride today, but this it's the same kind of feeling. And this race generally, the final phase of racing, it's generally from a big group like this, it's very, very hard to get away. So it's always been over the last few years the break that gets caught, and then there's a selection from the bunch, and ultimately the winners come from a reduced peloton. And that's been the shape of this race over the last few years, and that's why I think we're just seeing a couple of the teams with the big riders just waiting and waiting, because the final climb to the line is where the race is going to be won and lost. But I'd like to be proven wrong. It'd be interesting if a break went clear, but I think there's too many big teams here with a rider that would want to leave it to that final approach.
One of the riders we haven't mentioned just yet is Stevie Williams of the Israel Prematic team, the Welshman. I think he could do really well on a course like this one. He's in good form.
Yeah, he was aggressive. He was away over the weekend with Carlos Rodriguez on the final stage of the Tour of Britain. Did get dropped in the end, but was clearly in good form. And as you say, just come off the back of winning the Arctic race of Norway and the Queen stage of the race as well in a bunch kick. And if you look at the wins, now Stevie Williams, when you look at him, it's very difficult to reconcile the fact that he can win from a small group and has done in the past at the highest level. You know, won a stage Tour of Switzerland, the Archie at Slovenia. He can win from a small group, and he's very good at timing it right. So yeah, I think he's one to watch. And also a man that's been a little bit quiet of late, but not too far away from Williams, is a Dylan Teuns as well, who should, on his day, should be suited to a finish like this as well.
Yeah, Dylan Teuns, of course, is a master of the finish. And of course, with having the world champion here, who is lingering at the back mostly for today's stage, it's not a given that Mathieu van der Poel is just going to double up on his wins of the Grand Prix de Wallonie, especially not in this field. There's still a lot of racing to come, as we have an attack by, well, there was an attack by Alexis Guérin. A very brief one. And everybody's just basically biding their time. Matthias Norsgaard there at the front for the Movistar team. We have Frédéric Frison riding for the Lotto Destiny team. Jelle Vallais doing the work there, having Brian Coquard on his wheel, taking shelter. So yeah, it's absolutely not a given. It's like we start the race and we already know that Mathieu van der Poel is going to be victorious.
No, this is, as we said before, Jose, I agree, although he has to be one of the favourites and is playing it very cool at the moment because he's got Dries de Bont in front, doesn't need to show himself. And when you look at the way this race has unfolded over the last few years, there has been a certain formula to it, but this is perfect for Alpecin de Koenig. They've still got a 46-second lead, so you do have to doff your cap to de Bont, Cote and Molly. There's been a lot of activity behind, but they've still got a reasonable lead, which they're going to take into the final couple of climbs before the final climb to the Citadel de Namur. But over this next climb, they might ship quite a lot of time. The next climb, as we said, the Tien-en-Pierre is 3Ks long at just 5.5%, as we see another big swing around this traffic island here. But expect over the next two climbs this peloton to thin out as teams burn through their riders, setting this hot tempo.
Yeah, we're racing through Provence-des-Villes here on the river. Two rivers, basically. We've got the Sambre and the Meuse. And for me, Namur will always be synonymous to that one time in my life my car got towed. I was at the European Championships last year. And I parked my car in the centre of Namur. There was a hotel there. I was there with SRAM. And I parked it in front of a sex shop because I thought that's a good landmark. I will not forget where I parked my car. But apparently there was a sign all the way at the start of that street that was like at least 600 meters long, and I didn't see it, that between 4 a.m. in the morning and 6:15 a.m. in the morning, parking was not allowed. And of course, between 4 a.m. and 6:15 a.m., I was asleep. And my car was towed, and I was in a total panic. I called the police, who didn't speak any English, which is weird if you call the emergency number. And I speak really good French, but at that moment I didn't speak any French at all. So I ended up at the police station, where in fact it was confirmed to me that my car was towed, and I was brought to the yard where my car was after having paid a considerable sum in a police van, together with a man from Britain who was there as well, and his car was towed as well, and he had also not seen that very specific sign at the start of the street. So since that moment, Matt, I have a little bit of a parking trauma. I always check triple whether I can actually park somewhere.
Good move. That's a good move.
Yeah, traumatic experience.
Is that also why you...
And it was on this street, that yard.
Oh, there we go. Well, I'm just wondering whether that's why you've had to... do the commentary at home, because you're not allowed back in the area for a couple of years.
It's unsafe. unsafe.
Well, there was obviously a lot of activity when your car was towed, but there's a lot of activity behind this gap. During that anecdote has come down 22 seconds. A lot of movement here, because very shortly we're going to be swinging on to the penultimate climb before the final climb, so the third climb from the end, if you know what I mean. And everybody's fighting for position as we swing off this main road here. And look at the gap. It's absolutely capitulating.
Can I share some really amazing news? Jack Rutgen-Gray has just been announced at the EF Education Easy Post World Tour team. That is amazing news. Well,
there we go.
Great news for cool. Jack. He's going to be World Tour Pro in 2024. So
well, it's totally deserved. Brilliant stuff.
Well, I'm really happy about that. He's only 20, of course, but I've known him a couple of years through one of the youth events that I do in the Netherlands, and this is really great news for British cycling and for St. Piran as well, as the last riders of our breakaway are being swept up. And all of a sudden, Matt, we have a world champion at the front.
Yep, and we got his teammates still at the road.
Yep.
Etienne Pierre. And this is quite a long climb. It's one of the longest climbs of the day, this one. It's 3 Ks, remember, at just over 5%. So one of the hardest climbs, not super steep. So different sorts of climbs in the GP Wallonie compared to Liège. A lot steeper climbs there, but this one at this stage of the race is going to be very hard. But Dries de Bont, doing what Dries de Bont does very well. Generally, he's the last man standing, isn't he? And he'll try and stay away for as long as he can, as Vegetsteit Lange now moves to the front for the UAE Team Emirates squad in this late afternoon golden sunshine. And that looks like Jakob Fuglsang in the middle there making an appearance as well.
It is indeed Jakob Fuglsang, and also Biniam Gremaille is moving up to the front for the Intermarché Circus 1T team. But yeah, still standing strong is Dries de Bont. We already saw that Kenny Molly was caught by the peloton, and now our Canadian rider Pierre-André Côté will also be caught by the bunch. And look at that. It's always that grin on his face, isn't it, for Dries de Bont? A little bit of a mixture between enjoying the suffering and the actual suffering.
Yeah, I think he knows that he's probably not going to be staying away too much longer than this. But it's quite. Do you know what? Being in that position in a race, there's a strange euphoria about it. It's you've done your job for the day, but you can find something super special to stay out in front, and that's what he'll do. The longer he's out in front, the less that Alpecin de Koning have to do, and then subsequently the more resource they'll have to pilot their world champion and the defending champion in this race towards the place that he needs to be near the end. So what he's doing now is crucial. So they don't have to go into the wind at all, and because of the depth of field here, there are plenty of other teams who are going to fill that gap, and as a result keep Alpecin de Koning fresh. So this is perfect team riding, strong riding by Dries de Bont.
Well, the camera motorbike was so close in front of the peloton that everybody was basically sheltering behind that one as well. And it has moved up a little bit more, as we have indeed Team UAE Emirates. I remind you of the talented team: Ryan Gibbons, Mikkel Bjerg, Alvaro Hodge, Vegard Stakeling, Matteo Trentin, Michael Fink and Felix Gross is the team there. It looks like the peloton is not all that impressed just yet about Dries de Bont, and they are pretty sure that they will catch him in time.
Yeah, I don't think they're too worried now. I'm surprised actually that they've not picked up the pace a little bit more. There's an attack on the right hand side. Although Vegetsteit Lange was setting a decent pace, just look at the shape of the bunch, and that suggests there might be a headwind, and this looks like it is the former Liège-Bastogne-Liège winner who is actually going clear. It is indeed Jakob Fuglsang. Again, has had a pretty quiet season so far, I think it's fair to say, but good to see him fly in the nest. But he's not opening up much of a gap at the moment, but maybe that will be the catalyst for some more attacking riding from behind. But nobody appears to be taking the bait right now.
Yeah, of course, for Jakob Fuglsang, it was a really hard pill to swallow that he was not selected for that Tour de France team. His last win dates back to May 2022, when after a pretty long solo, he won the Mercantour Classique Alpes Maritimes, a race really heavy on the altitude meters in that mountain area just north of Nice. But it's Nick Schultz, actually.
It's Nick Schultz. Apologies.
It is Nick Schultz, yeah. Well, pretty impressed by him as well. Got a late contract, Nick Schultz, and
I think it's his birthday today.
Is it?
I think it's Nick Schultz's birthday today as well. He did. I mean, Jakob Fuglsang was definitely near the front, and they do look quite similar. So apologies to Nick Schultz there.
It is indeed his birthday. Good catch there. Of course, we had another birthday boy in the Vuelta, which probably you have all watched. So I'll give you a short...
I've not seen it.
I'm not saying anything about the birthday boy, but I'll just give you a short resume of the race so far. For those of you who just finished the Vuelta and tuned in, this is the Grand Prix de Wallonie, 201 kilometers. We have our defending champion, Mathieu van der Poel, in the field, as well as the entire podium from last year, Gremaille and also Gonzalo Serrano. A stacked field. This is an intermediate sprint where there is a little bit of money to be won for our attacker Nick Schultz. There were attacks straight from the start, short-lived breakaways who only got half a minute, 40 seconds. But in the end, we ended up with a breakaway at about 80 kilometers from the line that got a little bit more room, including Dries de Bond of the Alpecin, the Koning team, Pierre-André Côté of Human Powered Health, and Kenny Molly of Van Rijssel, Robert Lille Métropole. These three riders, they were just caught, and now from the peloton we have an attack from Israel Premier Tech's Nick Schultz. That is what happened. We've got 15 kilometers. The women's race was won by Polish rider Marta Lach in a sprint with Sylvia Persico and French champion Victoire Berthaud. New attacks. This looks like Søren Kragh Andersen there from the peloton. Fuglsang is still patrolling there at the front of the bunch.
Yeah, it's a good move here by Nick Schultz, as you say, the birthday boy from Brisbane. He can climb really well. He's a good all-rounder. Long-term contract with Israel, taking him through to the back end of 2025. But this is an ideal situation because we talked about the two riders, Tjörns and Williams. They can sit back and follow. This is perfect. But it is Søren Kragh Andersen now trying to get across to the move. He's got a man from Lotto Destiny with him as well. So good, aggressive riding here.
This is official, yeah.
Yeah.
This was officially the end of the climb, but as you can see, it kind of continues just a little bit. But now we got a pretty technical descent all the way back to the river. Then we're going to follow the river just a little bit more and then up the Citadel at 3k to go.
Yeah,
Søren Kragh Andersen.
Yeah. Sorry, Jose. Yeah, I just said we've got this little climb after this. We've got this descent, as you said, this technical descent, and another kicker of 1,200 metres at 4%. Then the descent in. So we've still got one more climb before the final climb after this one. And look who's latched onto the back as well. Matteo Trentin here. This is a quality little move. Trentin looks around, but there's a couple of teams that want representation here, including Arkea and including Movistar as well. That's why they're trying to pull this one back.
Aimé de Gent is the rider here for Intermarché Circus Wanty. We have Matteo Trentin, Brent van Moer, Søren Kragh Andersen. The Cofidis rider might be Alessandro Ferri. He was very active before. We have UNOX bridging across as well. So now the action is well and truly starting with 14k to go. Yeah, it's a very technical little descent that's coming up right now.
Yeah. Yeah, all back together though. Van Moer has a little bit of a look around. Trentin, jersey unzipped, just drifts onto that wheel. And this is Fuglsang. It looks like Fuglsang's winding things up for a little move on the left-hand side. And indeed, he goes straight over the top. So Israel Premier Tech trying to make sure that there's somebody up the road to keep that pressure off their two riders that can have a very strong finish.
Is this young Fabio Christen? I can't, I have to see the number. One of the very young, talented riders of the Q36.5, of course, brother of Jan Christen of the U18.
Yeah, Alpecin de Koning won a piece of this as well. This is a good little move. So Israel Premier Tech had somebody in the move early on, the first break of the day before we came on air. Mason Holliman was in that move, the young British rider. So
somebody's losing his glasses. Oh, that is not going to end well.
Oh, that's not good.
That is the end of the glasses there for Jakob Fuglsang. I'm looking for some new glasses, Matt, so I could have.
Well, maybe if you get yourself down. I mean, it's in between. It's just over the top of the Etienne Pierre. If you get yourself down there,
an entire peloton is now going over the glasses, including at least 22 vehicles. So I think that was the end of the glasses there for Fuglsang. Sad moment. Oh, Ciccone is always throwing away his glasses if he wins a bike race. That's something that Fuglsang cannot do anymore.
You do wonder what the glasses sponsor actually thinks of that. I mean, they're going to get publicity, but ideally you want them on your face as you cross the line, if I was... But there we go. But again, I was never in a position to win a stage of the Giro and do that.
And throw away some retro Oakleys that you have. Yeah, that would be a shame as well. Your custom-made ones in your British national champions jersey colours.
Yeah, do quite like those. But looks like we're heading on to this penultimate climb. Look at this little pinch point in the corner there. They're almost putting their foot down, aren't they?
I would have most certainly have unclipped at that point, yes. Well, move has been neutralised. Turgis there at the front of the bunch. We have Kremai also moving up. X very active there as well. Is it Alexander Kristoff in second position?
Kristoff will like this finish. He's already had a win this year, remember. It was a while ago, but Kristoff likes a harder finish. Maybe a little bit too steep for Alexander Kristoff, but if he's there at the end when it flattens out, that final part of the finishing straight is actually relatively flat after that long drag. But we've seen this race over the years on that final climb. It does thin out, and there are still... Well, if you look at the size of the field here, I thought it would have thinned out a little bit more, but I think that just gives us an indication of the quality of this field again. There are a lot of riders still left, and there are a lot of riders that need delivering to the line with these mini lead-out trains that we'll see. So the crucial point, well, for me, it's now making this next climb as hard as possible, because all we have then is that long descent of about 4Ks, 3 or 4Ks, into the foot of the Citadelle de Namur. These Ks now are going to rattle by in very short order.
We have Gianni Vermeers at the front at the moment for the Alpecin de Koning team, and also moving up is Arnaud Desmar, of course, in that new jersey, new colours of Arkea Samsic, a mid-season transfer there for the former French national champion. Also moving up with Gonzalo Serrano is Johan Jacobs. It's an interesting move at the moment. Søren Werenskjold is a complete style icon yet again there with a tuft through helmet, despite the fact that X wear arrow-like helmet, a tuft of hair has managed to break through there for Søren Werenskjold. And we know that tufts do lead to winning races.
They do. Not too sure where their most famous tuft in the world has been today.
Oh, big crash in the middle of the pack there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like several big riders have been taken.
But you see those poles there? You see those bollards there? There was absolutely no protection. You could see that Aimé de Gent of the Intermarché team was just like, okay, I'm just going to indicate that. But there was not even a colour marker on that one. That was absolutely not a great moment, that bollard there.
Well, it's taken out several riders. I can't see the world champion in the mix anymore again, but Søren Kragh Andersen accelerating here. Let's have a little look. I think, well, where is Van der Poel? Van der Poel's down. Well, he's been stopped. Yeah, Van der Poel has had to stop. I'm not too sure. It looks like he put his foot down. So Van der Poel has been hampered by that crash. And I'm not too sure if Søren Kragh Andersen wouldn't ordinarily attack if you knew that was a case, because he will be their protected rider. Yep. So
because attacking your team captain is something that we don't do in cycling. I've never seen it in the past week at all. End cynical mode. We have one rider from Lotto Destiny who went down first. It was hard to recognise who it was, but hopefully he's okay. But Johan Jacobs now at the front of the bunch. Let's see if we see the world champion.
There he is.
On the wheel of Coquard. On the wheel of Coquard.
I wonder if they're at the back of the group. They are. They're at the back of the peloton. So they've gone back in as Turgis, talking about him earlier on, attacks on this drag. Jakob Fuglsang is the man from Israel Primatech trying to bring this back together. This is this last climb before the drop down in. This is this 1,200 metre ascent at an average of 4%. And at this late stage in the race, this is really going to sting the leg. Stevie Williams also dropping into the line as this acceleration by Turgis is really stringing things out.
Yeah, it's such a technical part of the course here.
It's hard to move up, yeah.
Yeah, really difficult to move up, and some riders are trying to, but if you find yourself all the way at the back right now, as Mathieu van der Poel does, it's no easy feat to move up. You have to do that on that broad boulevard alongside the river that leads to our final climb.
Well, look at this. I mean, we came around that final bend, and no exaggeration, the bunch is all together here, but from front to last man on that right-hander, it's 15, 16 seconds. So you've got it does take a while to move up. There is a teammate here, and there is Mathieu van der Poel. We just saw the crash before. I think he just managed to put his foot down. That's why he looks okay. He was hampered, but thankfully he is not out of the game. But he's got a little bit of positioning to move up here. As on the left-hand side, it is. Well, this is the man had a magnificent win earlier this year. Michael Bjerg, of course, took the time trial in the Tour, or the Dauphiné, didn't he, earlier this year? That was some ride. That was
Long
such a strong
coming.
rider. Yeah, it was indeed, wasn't it? 3 times the under-23 world TT champion, of course, but he's on the front, on our right-hand side, his left.
And Stevie Williams, like you said, he's moving up now on the wheel of Johan Jacobs of Movistar. We have Søren Kragh Andersen. Gianni Vermeers is also at the front. Of course, they have plan B and C for Alpecin de Koning as well. But this is absolutely not a slam dunk race that Van der Poel is just easily going to win. And the previous 2 races also were not a huge success for Van der Poel. Of course, Grand Prix de Plouer was the first race back. Very intense race to come back to. And you can see he's moving up. He is moving up. Henry Ulik is the German rider with him, behind him, so that's not much use. But got a little bit of support there from Dries de Bond as well. And they've been going back a long way, these 2.
Yeah, I think he's not panicking at all, is he? He's just not too sure how injured. He sometimes does his little moves with his arms, his legs, just stretching out his back there. Looks very calm. It's not even attempting to move up in this very narrow stretch of road. As you say, we've got this descent now that takes us into that flatter section alongside the river before we go up the Citadel Dinamure, and that's what I think they're going to do. So it's a slightly risky strategy, especially given the fact we've got lots of teams here with riders that can perform well, that can function well on this drag to the line. The likes of Grimay, the likes of Brian Coquard, the likes of Christophe. There are a lot of talented bike riders here, but they're just opting to wait a little bit and leave it to the last minute quite clearly.
We have a little bit of an Arkea Samsic train there. Demar is racing with a red arrow helmet, so you can easily recognize them. He's in the middle of the trio of Arkea Samsic riders. Matteo Trentin very active at the front. We have Gianni Vermeers there for Alpecin de Koning, trying to get to the front, maybe slowing down the pace just a tad before the world champion manages to return. But yeah, some good technical riding there by Johan Jacobs as well. He is, of course, a cyclocross man. He was part of the European Championships as well here in Namur last November. This year we're going to France for our World Championships first weekend of November. Cyclocross is almost here, by the way. It's already started by. In the UK, it's already started.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some very hot cyclocross races have happened.
30-degree plus. Yes.
Exactly.
But this is our final descent going back to the Meuse River, where we have 1.5 kilometers of relaxing the legs or possibly moving up, because that road up towards the Citadel, Matt, is also not a super wide boulevard where you can easily move up 20-30 places.
Not at all. And think what you've got on this descent, that's about the 3rd or 4th one, is a little traffic calming. So this is narrow anyway, and all that does is thin things out even more, which the knock-on effect is that on the approach to the bottom of the climb, you've got to make an even bigger effort to get up. So this is thinning things out. But as you say, the climb itself is technical, multiple switchbacks. It's relatively narrow. We'll soon see what the surface is like, because we said it's partially cobbled. It changes just over the top. But it's just like this, but uphill towards the finish. So it is narrow. A couple of riders just using that little apex, almost like that little step off, just to make up a couple of metres in order to get themselves. Yeah, exactly. But this is one of the biggest fields, I think, that we've seen heading into the finish in recent editions of the GP de Wallonie. This is going to be pretty sketchy as we head in towards the finish. 5Ks to go now, Josie.
Yeah, we're making our way towards the Citadel. Its origins dating back all the way to Roman times, when the Belgians, or the people actually living in Belgium, courageously beat the Romans. It was a one-off victory. After that, they were completely smashed to bits. But it's something that the Belgians still celebrate, that one victory over the Roman troops. But yeah, it's, of course, having an outcrop like that alongside the river, you can see it right here, is going to be of strategic importance in any culture.
Definitely.
And that Citadel is absolutely fantastic to be at, to watch. And now we go towards the final. This is the final moment that you can actually move up. We have the Puerto Rican champion moving up there with our man from Brazil, looking for the rainbow stripes. Still quite far back, all the way at the left there.
On the left, isn't he? Yep.
Yep, with Fabio van der Bosse right in front of him. And here we have Alex Segaert, of course, the runner-up at the Belgian Road Championships. Very promising youngster. He's going to make that step up to the pro team of Lotto Destiny next year. He's doing the work there. And this is that little train for Demar.
Well, just look at Van der Poel, just slowly but surely, with minimal effort, floating up the inside, just going past the Team Flanders Balois squad. Watch out for Camille Pugnier for them. Yeah, he's got plenty of time, but saying that, it's about 800 metres. And look, he's just going to be just behind the lead-out train of Intermarché, looking after Benjamin Grimay. So one of their riders swings off, and just up the outside. So look at this, the timing of this. It's consummate so far, and also they're not doing too much. They're just surfing the wheels on the outside, and it looks like they're going to drop off Van der Poel in an ideal place, just on time. Look at this late little surge through to the front, and minimal effort.
And that is Fabio van der Bosse. He's got the skills. He's a fantastic track rider. He knows how to manoeuvre through a peloton. And the only thing that Van der Poel has to do is just follow the wheel of Van der Bosse. We also have some riders there for Jaco Alula with Campbell Stewart is there. We have Michael Matthews and Callan O'Brien. So that is the trio there for Jaco Alula moving towards the front. A little bit of shoulder barging going on there as we try to evade yet another traffic island. William Grimay is also moving to the front, but a little bit further back as the final push here by Alex Segaert on towards the Citadel. We have Søren Werenskjold there in third position as well for UNOX. Final sprint up the cobbles. Stevie Williams well positioned there as well for Israel Premier Tech. And now it is crunch time on the Muur de Namur. Søren Werenskjold is looking fantastically cool there on the wheel of his teammate.
Where's Christoph, isn't it, on the front? So Christoph round.
Jasper de Buist is the man there for Lotto Destiny. Of course, he is normally a lead-out man for Caleb Ewan, but we all know that relationship is going a little bit sour. Jasper de Buist, he can win bike races on his own as well, but look at this effort for Alexander Christoph, for his young countryman, Søren Werenskjold, who's just, like, basically effortlessly moving up. Another race that finishes on a Citadel in Diest was won by Werenskjold earlier this year. So he knows his Citadels.
He certainly does. Well, this is the man that knows. Oh, there's been a crash. A couple of riders are down. One of the Hagens Berman riders and also a Flanders Balois, but meanwhile it is still Alexander Christoph on this cobbled section at the front. Matteo Trentin on his wheel. Dylan Tjörns in the centre there. Stephen Williams on the left side. Jakob Fuglsang now moving up the outside. Just at the back of this group on the left hand side, you can see the world champion Mathieu van der Poel just biding his time. He knows how to pace this one. 1,800 metres to go and the road continues to rise. So Fuglsang here doing a great job so far.
Yeah, we also have Mats Mikkels there, the Estonian rider for Intermarché Wanty. They're in second place. William Grimay a little bit further back now on the wheel of Mathieu van der Poel. They were on that podium together last year. As we go underneath the bridge, we have Fuglsang and Mats Mikkels at the front. I think we also have Nans Peters there for AG2R. Could be Frank Bonamour, hard to see. No, it's Nans Peters. And this is where it really ramps up. Luckily, the cobbles here on the Citadel are not too wet. And like you explained before, Matt, it kind of just flats out here. So this group is still rather big. My favourite at this point is going to be Søren Werenskjold. Although he's now dropping back.
He has, leaving it a little bit. Mathieu van der Poel has just dropped onto the wheel of Jasper de Buist by the looks of things. So van der Poel looking pretty good. And also in the centre there, it looks like there's Gibbons. And is Alvaro Hodge in the centre there? There's definitely one of Matteo Trentin is there, I think it is. But what a turn this is by Jakob Fuglsang, who's romping up this climb here. It continues to rise here. Dylan Tjörns also moving up on the outside there in the purple and white of Israel Premier Tech, as van der Poel now makes a move on the left-hand side.
Yeah, as does William Grimay on the left-hand side. We have Serrano there, the podium of last year. And now it's up to Stevie Williams to move to the front. Stevie Williams is going to put in a little bit of an attack. Jasper de Buist on his wheel. We have Mathieu van der Poel there as well. It looks like it is yeah, I don't know who the rider of UAE is. I'm sorry about that.
It's Trentin on his wheel.
It's still Trentin moving up. Gonzalo Serrano a little bit back. We have Coca there, Werenskjold in 10th position, Turgis. But this is looking absolutely perfect situation now for a repeat performance of Mathieu van der Poel. Trentin is looking pretty strong as well. They're on the wheel of Mathieu van der Poel. Stevie Williams, it's not going to happen for him. And now it's Jasper de Buys. He finds himself in the lead. Of course, that's not a position that he wants to do. And it's a two-pronged attack there from Israel Premier Tech. When Stevie Williams just left the gap there, making sure that everybody thought that he was cooked, it was his teammate Dylan Teuns who went for a really long attack. It's Gonzalo Serrano trying to bridge across now, but this is very powerful by Dylan Teuns, and this is going to be impossible for the riders in the peloton to actually make it all the way to the top. What a fantastic team performance by Israel Premier Tech, with Nick Schultz, with Fulsang, with Stevie Williams, and now with Dylan Teuns, because he is on his way to actually winning this Grand Prix de Wallonie. Although Serrano is fighting tooth and nail to get back to the rear wheel of the Belgian rider, who of course is a specialist when it comes to steep uphill finishes. It kind of drags on a bit. The finish should be around the corner, but we're still not there. 300 meters, and that is looking promising there for Gonzalo Serrano. But Dylan Teuns is looking solid as a rock here. We've got the two riders there for AG2R with Bastien Tranchon, but it's going to be a sprint with Serrano and the man of Israel Premier Tech. Serrano and Israel Premier Tech. Is it going to be Gonzalo Serrano in the end and doing 2 places better than he did last year? He was third in 2022, and Gonzalo Serrano wins it this year. Wow, that was a pretty powerful sprint from the Movistar rider, showing that you should never, ever give up.
Well, that was a great move. It was a great move by Dylan Teuns. Israel Premier Tech were active all the way through there to the finish, but what we saw is a brilliant move by Stevie Williams, riding hard on the front, and then De Boist was exposed too quickly. Van der Poel was as well, but straight over the top, Teuns went. It looks like Teuns was going to get it, but that felt for me as if it was almost like the longest kilometre that I've ever seen in a bike race. It just kept going on, and I bet Dylan Teuns was thinking the same thing. And Serrano just punted his way across, and as soon as Serrano got onto the wheel of Teuns, without taking anything away from the Israel Premier Tech rider, it was always going to be Serrano. He rested for a couple of seconds, and then just turned on the heats and took the win. You could just see Teuns drifting over to the right-hand side, almost in a last-ditch attempt to make it a little bit of a longer way round for the Spaniard. But no, a superb win from Movistar, backing up that solid performance from last year on the podium. And I think it was Van der Poel who ended up just finishing just off the podium in 4th place.
Yeah, we didn't see that battle for 3rd place because the battle for 1st place was rather exciting. But we saw the two AG2R riders kind of overcooking the turn, like it happened last year in the women's race. But yeah, we of course always have the agreement, Matt, that one of us is going to do that final kilometre. But this was maybe the longest final kilometre that I ever called, apart of course for something like the Angliru or the Mille de Huy. But I thought the finish should have been there at least 500 metres ago.
Yeah, it's. I did think it was a very, very long drag to the finish. But what a ride by Serrano! Absolutely superb. 5 career pro wins for the Spaniard from Madrid. But yeah, that was a super performance, and I think that's his first win of the year, and his first win, I think, since the Tour of Britain last year. So a superb performance by the man from Movistar, who timed it really well. Was one of the first rider to try and counter-attack. Knew that move by Dylan Teuns had to be shut down, and didn't hesitate, and caught him just at the right time, because Teuns would have been over his maximum at that point. It did look good for a minute, but Serrano paced that bridge perfectly, and in the end had that real turn of speed to take the victory. So another good win for the Movistar team, who have had a solid season so far. As far as I'm aware, they've yet to win a stage in their home Grand Tour. But no, a good win there. No spoilers about the Vuelta, please.
I'm not saying anything. I'm not. But a good riding by Johan Jacobs. He was one of the outstanding riders there for Team Movistar. Did a lot of work at the front, controlling, in my opinion, an underrated rider, Johan Jacobs. He's very versatile and very nifty on a bike, actually. And I must applaud the team tactics of Israel Premier Tech as well. First sending Nick Schultz, then Jakob Fulsang, then Stevie Williams, who left a little bit of a gap and a little bit of indecisiveness there with the chasers, and then that turbo attack by Dylan Teuns. And here we have it, our golden tortoise again.
Yeah, it's a big one, isn't it? I mean, I know some of them are pretty big, but that's one of the biggest I've seen in recent years.
Can I say how many golden tortoises you have seen in your life? Because this is the only one I know.
It's certainly single figures, single digits. Probably one,
it could be one of these scarabees that you have from. But it's been there since March 2015. And it catches everybody's eye, is what the local council says, and it sure does.
I think it certainly does. It's certainly a talking point for us.
It's called Searching for Utopia. And what the idea around it doesn't say, but they have a stunning picture on the website with some really starry skies and some good lightning there for the turtle.
Yeah, certainly catching the light on this beautiful late summer afternoon. But no, that was a strong victory. That was, again, we've seen this race before come down to, we've always seen attacks in the final, but that one by Dylan Teuns, there was such a hesitation behind. And the key for me was when Stevie Williams swung off and De Boist was just exposed too early. Van der Poel also was way too near the front to want to carry things on. So that was that moment of hesitation was when Dylan Teuns did the right thing, because they had numbers. But I don't think he expected to have this man for company in the closing 150 metres, who just had that faster kick. Remember, Teuns would prefer a longer finish, not quite as explosive as this man. In the end, won it by several lengths, but that was a proper effort. And again, he did come into the race, I think, as one of the favourites. Had a solid Tour of Britain, but finished on the podium in this race last year when he was third. So clearly knows, Jose, importantly, each race has its own identity and peculiarities, but there's certain climbs that some riders just get right. They just understand how to ride it, understand the rhythm of the race. And because there's so many riders on the limit here, if teams are exposed a little bit too early, that provides an opportunity for riders to go long. But if he'd have waited 2 seconds longer, I don't think he'd have got across the gap there, because Teuns is dangerous in those sorts of situations. But yeah, Serrano, strong race, but more importantly, you could argue, intelligent.
Yeah, and some nice drone footage there of the final
that was lovely.
300 metres. Here we have our top 10. Serrano wins ahead of Teuns. De Boist is then the winner of the peloton sprint ahead of Van der Poel. Fabio Christen, good result there from the young Swiss rider. Bonamour, Grimay, Simon, Kostju and Rick Pluimers with a top 10 place there for Tudor. So a nice international top 10 and a Spanish winner in Belgium, in Gonzalo